G'day. Yeah, I can speak. I can answer your text questions, but there's no way for you to voice chat me. Just respond up, just to confirm you can hear me okay. I think there's roughly a 10-second delay or so. Okay, good. If at any time you need me to stop and explain something, just yeah, I'll refer back to your text messages and in the chat and see any questions you have. But just remember there is about a roughly 10 or so seconds delay. Okay, now I'll show you. I'll start explaining the software. This is the main interface. We're looking at the live video of the wheel. This is a Mark 7 John Hoxley wheel. It's a current model wheel, and it's using the Veldstone ball track, which is a little bit trickier to beat because of the way the ball falls off the track. You might notice and even hear it as towards the end of the spin, the ball chatters a bit and rolls a bit more chaotically, so it's more difficult to predict than most wheels. Now, looks like I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, most of the demo is quite boring and repetitive because we're just repeating spins. So it's only key points that you really need to pay attention when I do explanations. And again, it's all recorded, so you can review the video later on and go back and see what I've said or whatever later on after the demonstration. So I'll just explain some of the software. This software here is, there's many parts to it, but this is the main interface, the main software. The hybrid and the Uber software, the remote versions are exactly the same. The key difference is the extra components that deal with the video feed. The key difference is the hybrid uses the camera, as I'm sure you're aware, to take the timings, which means nobody has to look at the wheel. It's safer. Yeah, it's just already a better system. It's better for avoiding detection, so you can win larger amounts without arousing too much suspicion. Now, so this is the main area where the person sitting at home, it's optional, but it's best to have an operator at home, someone that's watching the feed and controlling the software and adjusting settings as needed. These are just some of the parameters, the wheel deceleration. You don't have to know what all the little bits and pieces do. That's kind of overkill for the demo. This is a 3D chart. Oh, first of all, I'll start with a 2D chart. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the jump charts and what they do. For this part, you really need to pay attention to absorb what I'm saying. Are you listening to what I'm saying at the moment? Yeah, unfortunately, YouTube doesn't allow it. We could always voice chat later on with any questions you have, but and then there is a bit of a delay. I'm not set up for Zoom. And when I've got some extra software working on the software, it conflicts with the YouTube stream. So it's unfortunately not practical to use voice. I used to use Skype, but that's got problems now. Look, if there's something you don't see and you want to go back and just ask a question, we can cover anything. But this is just a basic demonstration of the functionality and what it does and everything. Okay, so we'll get started in the demo. This is the 2D jump charts. The jump charts are like one of the final tuning steps. There's two types of predictions. You've got the raw prediction. The raw prediction is an estimation for the computer where the ball's kind of most likely to land, and the rotors, the moving part of the wheel, you want to know the orientation, where the numbers are beneath the numbers when the ball falls. Now, let's say, for example, the raw and the untuned prediction is at 0, which means the ball, say, for example, the raw prediction was 0 and the ball landed on 0. So there's a difference of 0 pockets, which means on that spin you get 1 bar here. If the raw prediction was 0 and the ball landed on 32, then it's a +1 pocket, and there'd be an incremental bar here. That's very important to understand. After time, when you've done enough spins, you get enough of these bars in groups of areas. What we're looking for is groups of high bars that are above the yellow line, but we look at the green line, which is kind of like an average. This green line here above the yellow line and makes these boxes green. And these are the areas we select to tune the predictions. So what we'll do is we'll just build data on the charts and just see how these develop. The last demo I did, this is the result I got from it. Using exactly the same settings, the same wheel, the wheel hasn't moved, the same ball and everything, just a different date. This is probably about a week ago, maybe a bit longer, I'm not quite sure. So the important thing we're looking for, if everything's going well, we should have a chart that somewhat resembles this chart here in this chart up here. So we want them to, and if, I mean, there's always a variation. You never get exactly the same chart. And one thing that can happen, and very frequently happens, like in this case, we've got, let's see, the one peak here and a second peak here. Now this edge of the chart links up to this side of the chart because the wheel's circular. And what we're looking for is mostly values or high bars in this area and this area and this area. So 3 areas with a low area here. Is that all clear so far? We've also got a 3D chart, but we're not going to be, hang on, I'll wait for your response. I'm not sure what you mean by taking the value of the first number. We don't look at tune predictions so early. Usually we need data. Again, we need to see where the peaks are. So before we actually start betting and before the predictions can be considered accurate, we need to have enough data on this chart to see where the peaks clearly are and if they're stable. If they're not stable, then we have to look at the settings and see what we're doing differently. So what we'll do now is we'll start getting predictions. They won't be tuned predictions, so we're not looking at accuracy just yet. When we do these demos, it can be really impressive when you get hit and win after win after win, but we don't look at the short term. We need to look at the longer term data, which is somewhere anywhere between 60 to 100 plus spins to realistically know the edge that we're getting. In this case, the estimated edge is roughly, the maximum edge is roughly 16%, but all things considered, with mistakes, incorrect bets, and all kinds of things, the edge is probably closer to 12%. Because you can't always apply it perfectly. But a 12% edge is a whole lot higher than the negative 2.7 edge that's usually against you. So it's just a matter of continuing to play and there's no real limit to what you win besides what the casino will allow you to win, and that depends on how well you avoid detection. Okay, so we'll get started. Again, the initial predictions don't matter, but if we're kind of replicating this chart here using the same settings, then we should expect a peak here and around about 13. And the other ones, or this is part of the same peak this side, and that links there, so it's pretty close to where the raw prediction is. So when we get a prediction, we'll get the first two tune predictions. Might be 0 and 12 or whatever, and then we'll hear a ding sound, and then we see the raw prediction. I'll explain it as we go though, so it makes more sense. So just to start, we start the spin. And yeah, okay. Now to start the prediction process, all I do is press one button, but I'll do that after I've released the ball. Okay, now we enter the winning number, which is 23.
Enter tense 23. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so the raw prediction was 28, and it's here. We're incremented in the chart. It's not where we want it, but we've just updated the ball sample. Every day that the ball, over time, the ball deceleration rate changes. And so we have to adjust for the difference in the air pressure and the time that well, what I'm trying to say is it takes a little while just to adjust to the different day and how the ball's behaving on a different day.
Addy. Play. $25, $24, $25.
Okay, in that case, the very last ding that you hear after the kind of it gets faster and faster, and you hear a ding sound at the end. That ding sound is when the ball is predicted to fall from the ball track. So when you hear that guitar kind of pluck sound, that's when the ball is predicted to fall from the ball track. In that case, the ball did a completely full revolution extra, which is way out in the calibration. It's a whole revolution the difference, so that has to be tuned out first before we start to realistically add this information to this chart. So this bar now is obsolete, but we're going to just do a few test spins just to see how accurate that last sound is for the ball fall. So I'm just going to enter the numbers. Again, it's not. We're going to clear this chart later on because we're going to tune the ball first.
36 confirmed. Update.
All right, so now we'll do it again, and now we'll listen how the ding sound compares to when the ball actually falls from the ball track.
Addy. Play. 21, 10, 21.
Yeah, absolutely. You can collect video footage and test it at home. A lot of people do that. So the ball's still doing a full extra revolution.
Enter tense. 11. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so these are the original timings. It's unusual for the ball to be doing an extra revolution like that, but we'll continue to see how it does.
Addy. Play.
It could also be that I've just recently cleaned the wheel.
28, 5, 5.
So the ding sound's over here, and it's gone around and hit there. So that's roughly 2 whole seconds difference. That will definitely change the location of peaks unless we tune this out.
Enter tense 7. Confirmed. Update.
All right, well, despite the revolution, the bars are kind of increasing here. It's not ideal, so I'm going to have to do a few spins to see what we're doing.
Adding. Adding. Play. One. 6. 6.
You can target diamonds individually. It's rare. Oh, that's way off because it's a whole revolution, so I'll have to figure that out. Okay, yeah, you can target diamonds. This is one of the features that allow you to target diamonds. Along this axis is the rotor speed when the ball's predicted to fall. This axis along these lines is 0, 0.2, 0.4, and so on. That refers to the diamonds or the area around the rim of the wheel where the ball's predicted to fall, and the dot represents, or this axis, the vertical axis, is how far the ball has landed from the raw prediction, so the jump value. And it combines those 3 variables to see which rotor speeds and diamond hits are most consistent. And so we get a green cloud. And that's done automatically. I very rarely use that feature because you need more data. For this to be reliable, you'll need somewhere between 100 to 300 spins. It's unnecessary, and 300 spins is practically a day in the casino, and you don't need to spend that much time. What you need to do is, it's not just about the maximum accuracy you can get, it's about being practical and getting an edge and getting out of the casino as quickly as possible. So I'll delete this chart for now.
Enter tense 35. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so the focus really now is just getting that timing of the ball fall beep at the end. It's way off. It's like a whole second out. 2 seconds out. The end difference. That's what I'm missing here. All right.
Adding.
Now this spin will be quite a bit out again, but the next one will be more accurate.
5, 2, 2.
Yes, the time that no, hang on. Well, how fast they spin the ball. I'll wait for it to fall.
Enter tense 33. Confirmed. Update.
The dealer doesn't at all change the physics of the wheel. The only really variation is the speed of the rotor and how hard the ball they actually spin. If they spin the ball harder, generally it's better for us because it gives us more time to bet. But the physics don't really change. When the ball falls, it doesn't make a difference. So now, let's see. Yeah, okay, so we're a little bit better calibrated for the ball fall time, but that's the part that we needed to have.
Adding. Play. 17, 16, 17.
Now we'll see how much closer is that last fall beat to when the ball actually falls. Okay, much better. All right, so what I'll do is I'll delete the charts from here, and now we start to build it properly. It'll be a little bit more accurate.
Enter tense 14. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so that's the first value we're looking at, and what we have to do with every spin, we want to make sure that the ball fall beep is occurring when the ball falls from the ball track, wherever it falls from the ball track. So it might fall here, there, here, or whatever. I think this is the dominant diamond here. So ideally, we want to have the ball fall beep whenever that hits this diamond. That's where we want to hear it. There's always variation. There's always errors. It's not so much the errors. It's more about how the ball rolls on the ball track. It's different every time. There's no two spins that are exactly the same. It might hit a little bit of dust. There might be a tiny speck of dust that's stuck on the ball. A common thing that happens is the dealer gets sweaty fingers. The ball gets a little bit of dust or just a tiny speck put on it, and that's enough to significantly change the deceleration rate of the ball. So anyway, now we're just going to continue to build data in this chart and monitor the ball fall beep. And we don't really look at accuracy yet, but what we're hoping for is everything is, at the very least, we want this peak and this peak here. Now, these peaks can slightly shift left or right. When we've got multiple peaks like this, it's very important to get the errors minimal, because a slight shift, if you go from betting this area here to getting this area, which is only like 10 or so pockets away, then we're going from a strong win to a strong loss. And the overall result is no edge at all. So it's very important to make sure that these peak locations are stable. And again, they do shift a little bit. You do a sample of 100 spins or so, and you do another sample of 100 spins to compare the charts. And there's always a variation. But what we're looking for is the high areas are reasonably consistent enough to have a stable edge. We can bet, say, this entire area here and this entire area here, but that's 20 or so numbers. You don't need to bet that. All you really need to bet for an edge is there, in the middle, in the center of the peaks, and one number. So we'll just, yeah, this is more the boring part now, where we're building this data on the chart to compare to this chart.
Adding.
If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll get to it when I can.
Play. Line 11.
Yeah, it's fine. It's probably best for, well, yeah. If we get through the demo, okay, that was a little bit off. I'm not going to worry about it too much though. Not now. Sample not updated. So the computer's detected there's something a little bit different for that spin.
Enter tense.
So 20.
Confirmed. Adding. Play. Zero. Enter tense 23. Confirmed.
Okay, so that time the ball fall beep was over here and the ball fell over here. That's perfectly fine. That's okay.
Adding. Play. 22. 30. Enter tense 12. Confirmed. Adding.
Okay, so we've got the bars here so far. If it was perfect, it'd be a little bit over to the left, but it's still very, very short-term data. And we're still calibrating as we go.
Enter tense 22. Confirmed. Adding. Adding. Play.
Okay,
Zero.
yep, it's very important.
0.
I'll get to your questions in a second. Okay, I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. Let's look at your questions. Yeah, very important for me to know that. Makes it a lot easier, you being an advantage player. The range of numbers, it really depends on the chart. I'll bring this up. This is a better chart. So in this case, we could bet 5 numbers here and 5 numbers here. We could do neighbour bets, but neighbour bets on a table tends to give you away, so you can't do them too often. But you don't have to do them too often. What we usually do is if we're betting neighbours, there might be a player that will sometimes do neighbours, and you do a few random red, black, odds, even bets just as a distraction, and you treat those as a bit of a write-off. I mean, the edge is only very slight anyway, but you counteract that with the winning bets. So you sacrifice some of your edge just to avoid detection. So in this case, I would say 5 numbers here and 5 numbers there, in total 10. But at the very least, you would need to bet just the 2 numbers, which would be the center of peak here and at the raw prediction, which is pretty much in the center of the other peak here as well. But the problem with betting too few numbers is you might have a higher edge, but the win rate or the amount you win per hour is still lower. So the more numbers you bet is generally better, as long as you're still in these little green areas here, the checkbox, so that we're agreeing. 300 spins is overkill. That's 300 spins is more for the 3D chart. For this chart, if the edge is good on the wheel and the wheel's easily beaten, you could get an edge after 5 or so spins, because as you can see that the bars are already incrementing in the same spot, and if we were betting in the same spot, we would have an edge. It doesn't mean we would have a win, because we've just missed out on a few wins, but if we're betting the whole area, then they would have been wins. But 5 numbers, we would have just missed out. We would have missed out by 1 here and 1 over this side here. Yeah, so it's all about getting it out. In a typical situation, the players go in the day before, or a few hours before, they make random bets, reds, blacks, odds and evens, and they don't draw any attention because they're not betting late. They're just collecting data for the chart. So they want a chart like this. When everything's fine, they can leave the table and talk to the operator, the guy that's controlling the computer and everything, and just discuss how good the edge is or whatever, and whether or not they want to continue. If they want to continue, then the player goes back in. It could be a different player. That way you rotate players better for avoiding detection. And then you start betting based on these the actual tune predictions, and that's when you've got an edge. And you might be out of the casino, and you start betting higher. You might be out of the casino in literally 10 spins with a decent profit, as long as it's enough to counteract the losses for setup. Because when you're setting up, you're collecting spins. It might be 100 or so spins per direction maximum, and that takes time and it wastes a little bit of money. So you want to have an edge that's high enough. Okay, I'm just looking at this. Okay, well, I'm not sure I understand the question, but these predictions, the tune predictions, get sent automatically to whatever phones are connected to the server. In this here, this is to activate the Wi-Fi. It's not really Wi-Fi, but the actual connection. And phones can connect, and you can see in this window, the operator can see which phones are connected, and if they automatically disconnect, bad connection or something, they automatically reconnect. And these predictions, whatever predictions we have for the tune predictions, are automatically distributed, in this case just automatically distributed to whatever phones are connected. So the players don't need to know the wheel layout. All they need to know is whatever numbers they hear in their earpiece. I'm not sure what you mean by the axis. Yes, absolutely, wheel scouts. Yeah, 100%. if you scout around for the wheel and the conditions that are right, you'll find it extremely easy to beat. What a lot of players do is they just go to their local casino, choose the first wheel they come across, don't even look at the dominant diamonds, don't even look at the wheel design, and just continue to play. And 9 out of 10 times that's fine. You can profit that way. You can beat almost every wheel where the conditions are okay. What I mean by conditions are okay, there's no RRS. I mean, you can still beat RRS wheels. There's the random rotor speeds. We still get edges. I've got a long video of a win from a slingshot wheel. A slingshot wheel is the Kamei automated wheel that's supposedly impossible to beat and impervious to computers and VB players, which is bullshit. It really depends on the wheel settings, and we managed to regularly get roughly 5% edge on the slingshot wheels. The slingshot wheels are good because some of them are online, and the casinos don't expect them to be beaten, so they makes them a little more vulnerable. Yeah, beating the minimums on the outsides just to stay at the table. That's right.
Addy.
Okay.
Addy. Play.
It might be better to ask questions to last because otherwise the demo can go 4 or 5 hours when we should be out. When we should be focused on the actual this part of the demo. But there'll be plenty of time for questions later on.
Enter tense.
Whoops.
11. Confirmed.
Not sure where that was. Anyway.
Addy. Play.
So the focus now for the operator is just making sure that the wheel deceleration rate's right. This white dot here
0.
and this white dot here are very small.
0.
This green line is the projected path of the rotor, and it needs to go through the white dot, which means the 0 is where we want it to be at the right time.
Enter tense. 6.
Okay, that one's
Confirmed. Update.
All right, so just comparing the chart, we're getting the increments roughly in the same spot, the high bars here and the high bars up here. Still very early days, only 8 spins.
Addy. Play. Five. 28. 5. Enter tense. 33. Confirmed. Addy. Play. 15. 31. 31.
And that's right on 31.
Enter tense. 31. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, it says the maximum edge is 62%. That's not going to be realistic. It's more, like I said, it's roughly, yeah, well, if we're beating the center of the numbers here, the edge is higher, so it might actually be like 15%, because you're realistically betting more than 2 numbers, so you're covering a region, the edge is a bit lower. But again, the amount you win per hour is more important than edge.
Addy. Play. 18. 8. Enter tense. 16. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so far it's looking good. As long as we don't get bars around about here, or we don't get too many bars. There's obviously going to be some bars. At the low point in the chart at about -11, so it's around about here. We want to avoid that. If we start to get too many values there and the chart doesn't look right, then it could be because I'm not monitoring the ball fall beep correctly. The ideal situation, just answering your question here, the ideal situation would be to have a single peak only, or I'll compare this chart, only for half the wheel. That's not exactly what we've got. We've got two peaks, one here and one there. The problem with having multiple peaks is any error can make the peaks shift either side, or you start going from betting a high part to a low part. But it's quite common to have 2 peaks, sometimes 3 peaks, sometimes even 4 peaks, but the peaks overlap after a while, and they look like fewer peaks, but it's actually multiple peaks.
Annie. Play. $20. 20. Enter tent.
32.
32. Confirmed. Update. Annie. Play.
Yeah, 1% edge to me sounds insane. I have had my hand at blackjack and card counting technology, and it just doesn't compare. 26.
Enter tent. 26. Confirmed. Annie.
Yeah, with card counting games, the benefit is you can play for long hours and not be detected as easily. Okay, well, if you look, you've got good background. A lot of people that come to me have absolutely no experience in this. They don't understand what I'm talking about with edge, but it's obviously familiar to you.
Play. Annie. Play.
Oops.
Annie. Play. 11. 9. 11. Enter tent. 16. Confirmed. Annie.
Look, in my opinion, Roulette's the easiest game to beat. Yeah, a lot of people talk about it in the community and saying it's not possible, but it's they just don't know any better. Roulette's by far the easiest game to beat. It varies. Obviously, you've got different rules for blackjack and card games, so the edge will vary. Different shuffle machines as well. Done shuffle analysis. I've even done technology to see through cards, but that's I haven't developed that further. Yeah, roulette. We've gotten edges over 100% before, and again, it's on a wheel like that. It's incredibly easy to beat, and it really just comes down to avoiding detection. As far as time as well, there's nothing I find quicker than roulette. So I've had my hand in all the casino games, but I've definitely focused on roulette. I can see how easy it is to beat, as long as the conditions are right.
Play. Annie.
So if you scout for the ideal conditions, you'll find it very easy.
Play. 6. 1. 6. Enter tense 2. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so that was the bar there. I'd say that's more part of this peak on this side. So far it's looking well, very similar. We've got the low part here and the high bars this side. It's looking like one peak rather than two peaks. In fact, when I did this particular test, that might be all just one peak, or it might be two individual peaks from two different diamonds. I'm just reading. Oh, there's definitely roulette heat. Hang on, I'll just look at this one. If the edge is only 5% or so, then blending and avoiding detection, it might bring down the edge to like 2%. Yeah, it's still better than blackjack, but yeah, it's all about avoiding detection. If you can avoid detection, you can win millions of dollars in a day. That's what stops you from winning millions of dollars a day, is the avoiding detection.
Annie. Play. 22. 4. 22. Enter tense 12. Confirmed. Update.
Just bear with me a sec. I've got someone at my door, at the gate. I'll be. Give me 5 minutes. All right, I'm back. So we'll just continue on.
Annie. Play. 25. 24. 25. Enter tense 21. Confirmed. Update. Annie. Play. 22, 30. Enter tense, line. Confirmed. Update.
Just looking at, so 30 was the, hang on a second, no, close to 22. So in that case, what was the raw prediction? 30. Never mind, oh, 30 to 9, but it's still next to the other number.
Andy.
Are you able to see the numbers okay?
Play. 15, 31, 31.
It's about here, I think.
Enter tense. 24.
Yeah.
Confirmed. Update.
So what we've done, 19 spins. It's already looking very, very similar. Yeah, but we need, I mean, yeah, we'll just have to keep going and get more data. And then later on we'll look at some questions and I'll show you what else you want to see.
30, 15, 15.
That's a little bit further around here.
Enter tense. 7.
Oh, still close.
Confirmed. Andy. Play. 1, 26, 1. Enter tense. 19. Confirmed. Update. Andy. Play. 21, 18.
I think I start to see the ball deceleration rate start to slow a bit. It's because it's just recently been cleaned and any dust or grit gets on the ball track quite easily. But it's not bad enough to worry about at the moment.
Enter tense.
8.
8.
So that was there.
Confirmed. Update.
That's the low point we want to avoid. But again, we're still going to get data in there. So the main thing for the operator, I mean, there's a lot of things that he does, but he has to make sure that the rotor deceleration rate's right, and very importantly, the ball fall time is right.
Andy.
If that's wrong, or either is wrong, then the accuracy is too far out. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that ball fall beat as the ball deceleration rate changes and know when I want to keep the sample updated. I can update it every time, but it's not necessary.
35, 35.
Okay, so it is, well, it's, hold on.
Enter tense. 8. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so I think the ball sample's traveling the ball's traveling a little bit less distance, so I'm going to take off just 200 milliseconds. But that takes effect after the next time I update.
Andy. Play. 1:26.
No, it's the same deceleration rate all the time, regardless. I mean, every spin's slightly different, but the dealer's not going to change the physics of the wheel. The dealer doesn't care or know who's spinning the wheel.
Enter tense 0. Confirmed. Update. Andy.
No, the rotor can be at any position. Normally I just pick it up and spin it straight away, but I can release it at any point. And for example, I just let it randomly go like that, and I'll just slow it down a bit. Look, anyway, look. Yeah, so
26.
I'll wait for the spin to stop and I'll explain it.
Enter tense 17. Confirmed.
Okay, so if you look where the mouse is pointing, there's a little green box here and a little green box over here. Now, no matter where the rotor is at the time, it has to. Hang on, I'll use this one. If you look here, the green is in the little detection box, and you can see this white line. That means it's detecting at 180 degrees from the original position. So it knows it's there. Now it's off the green. Now it's on the green. And the same thing for the other side in this box here. Where it is there. But except the lines at the bottom here. And put it off it, put it back on it. So it doesn't matter where the wheel is orientated when the ball is released. It's still going to time from those particular spots. There are settings that can track the green's position at 360 degrees. That's useful for situations where you've got a top view of the wheel. It doesn't have to be top view, but top view is best. It could be a 45-degree angle, it's fine. But generally speaking, I've got a good enough view, and what you normally see from a roulette wheel in the casino with the camera, so you can see, ideally, this diamond here and that diamond here, so you can see half of the wheel and 2 points where the zero changes, passes those points, which means that I can start timing from that part or start timing from that part. I can time half a revolution or a full revolution. The settings I've got, so we can start timing either one of those, but it's still wasted to do a 360 degrees from that point. So if I take it from that point, it still has to go 360 degrees. Again, if I did predictions earlier, there are settings I can use for only half revolution or one revolution, or half revolution for the rotor and one revolution for the ball. So I can get timings as early as I need, but the earlier you need and the quicker, then obviously the less accurate. So short answer to your question, the orientation of the rotor doesn't matter at all when I release the ball. Unless there's dealer signature, but it's not what we're looking at here. And there are cases of dealer signature, but that's not what we're looking at.
26, 13, 26.
It might be in our deal
Enter
zone.
tense 31. Confirmed. Update. Andy. Play. 16, 17.
here.
Enter tense. 32. Confirmed. Update.
Okay, so yeah, we've got 27 spins. It's very similar.
Annie. Annie. Play. 35. 6. 35. Enter tense. 23. Confirmed. Update. Annie. Annie. Play. 7. 25. 7. Enter tense. 36. Confirmed. Annie. Annie. Play. 36. 0. 0. Enter tense. 34. Confirmed.
I'm just looking at your question. Yep, absolutely. You can come back without a camera if you like. It kind of defeats the purpose though. When you're referring to the camera, are you referring to the hybrid or something that you've recorded? I mean, if you're recording video and taking it out of the casino to test, I mean, to build the chart, absolutely you can do it. Some players do it, but it seems to be a bit of a stuff around. There's a recording feature that's inbuilt to this that you can actually do the recording to do that. So you do the recorded video and you can do multi-record. Multi-record allows you to record as many individual spins you want as a test, and it gives you the ability to just adjust your settings and see what works best for that particular wheel.
Annie. Annie.
But like I said, it's overkill. If you're already spending the time at the table, taking the video away and then testing is going to be an extra time.
5. 28.
Yes, this is the hybrid. The hybrid uses the camera, and I'll show you the Uber in a second. It's just a difference in how the timings are taken.
Enter tense. 33. Confirmed.
So here we go. What was it? Yeah, this is the type of clocking. So you've got the rotor deceleration rate. That's you only need to set it once for each of the wheel. The number of clicks. This is how many passes of the ball that I want to see. Want the hybrid to see before it gives predictions. So 2 clicks means 2 passes. So if the ball's in the where is it? The detection zone over here. Between these 2 red lines, there and there. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, so 1 pass through here and comes around, that's the second pass, that's counted as 2 clicks. The equivalent using the Uber would be to use manual rotor and ball. Here we can do manual ball, so manual clicks for the ball and automatic rotor timings. We can also do auto ball clicks or timings for the ball and a manual rotor timing. And we can do manual for both. Manual for both allows us to click individual keys. So, for example, the Z and the N for the ball, and the X and N for the rotor. We can have multiple. This is the very big key point for the Uber. You can have multiple people taking the timings at the same time. And what the Uber does is it looks at the timing, analyzes it, realizes which ones are inaccurate clicks and excludes them, and for the clicks that are accurate, it combines them so you've got a more accurate timing. So in a nutshell, multiple people taking clicks at the table is the equivalent of using the hybrid. The hybrid's automatic, it's more accurate, but you can have multiple people taking timings, and with the Uber, it's the same accuracy. If I was to use only one player for the manual clicks, and he was only taking 2 clicks of the ball, so it's 1 pass of the ball, he's not going to have accurate timings. So this is only possible with two clicks if I'm using either the hybrid or multiple clicks, multiple clockers with multiple phones. And there's no real limit to how many people you can have clocking. I mean, a typical case would be 2 people clocking. You can have one person just focusing on the rotor, the other person focusing on the ball, and their timings are simultaneous. So they don't have to be one after the other, so you can get a prediction much earlier. So the hybrid is overall the most accurate. If the conditions are right, it's the much better option because no one's looking at the wheel. No one needs to look at the wheel to take timings. Hopefully that answers your question. Kind of went a bit off track though. I tend to. Yeah. Sorry, I've done something wrong here. What have I done? I put it on manual. I'll go back to auto. Yeah, so all manual is to it. It's just just clicking buttons. It's all exactly the same as far as application. Just a different timing method.
35.
It's about here, I think, somewhere.
Enter tense.
5.
5.
Here.
Confirmed. Adding. Play.
We'll do a few more spins and we'll just take a break for a while.
3. Enter tense. 31. Confirmed. Update. Adding. Play. $17. 28. Enter tense. 19. Confirmed. Update. Adding. Play. 6. 1. 6.
After all that rolling, it right on 6. In that case where the spin, the ball rolls around the rim of the rotor, we call those rollers. They're very difficult to predict. If you find a wheel that does that very frequently, it's a sign to avoid it. This wheel's not too bad on this. It also depends on how little it is though.
Adding. Play. 25. 7. Enter tense. 21. Confirmed. Adding.
We'll take a break after the spin and give my voice a bit of a break.
14. 13. Enter tense. 16. Confirmed. Update.
All right, so just looking at the charts, comparing them, they're very similar. So we've got the low point around about here. Low points, yeah, roughly the same. Like I said, there's always a bit of variance. If I was looking at this chart for the very first time, I would assume that the peak is probably a major peak here and a potentially secondary peak here, but it's so close to the low point, so we'd kind of disregard that initially until we had more data. So I'd probably look at this whole area, that's what the computer's selected. So this wavy green line that's above the yellow line is where we hypothetically have an edge, but it develops over time. But most importantly, it's not just the individual bars that we look for, or the individual jump count values, we look at the areas as you would be aware. So we'll take a break from now, just give me about 5 minutes, whatever, and we'll come back. I'll leave the stream running though. All right, we'll continue on. Just let me know you're there.
Andy.
And we'll just continue spins.
Play. 5, 2, 2. Enter tense 13. Confirmed. Update. Andy.
Okay, all right, well, yeah. In that case, just let me know what you would like to see and what we look, any questions you have. The easiest way for me to respond to, okay, if you're going to copy and paste them here, that's fine. It's probably easiest. I'm not sure what we can use for calling at this stage. Yeah, Skype's just recently shut down, so I don't use it anymore. It's probably best if you just type them into the chat, and I'll just give you my voice response on the spot. No, I don't use phone for this. The phone I use is I don't use it anymore. If you're referring to back off as in the casino asking you to leave, is that what you mean? Not very frequent. It really depends on the team and the conditions and how attentive the staff is. The thing that gives you away is the constant glaring at the wheel and the late bets and the uncanny luck, the sector bets. So if you're doing everything, all the instructions to avoid the detection are in the instructions, the guide for the software. It's very thorough and explains what usually gives you away and how to avoid detection, and a few examples of some approaches you might use to avoid detection. So to answer your question, not very rare, but it depends on the last time that we got kind of asked to move on. We had a guy at a kind of like a rapid roulette terminal where you've got the terminals. Well, it's called different things in different countries, but basically terminals around a real wheel, and everyone's sitting at a touch screen. And the live video footage of the wheel is up on the screen in front, and the guy was adjusting the camera. I don't know how he had the camera, but I think he was just aiming a phone on it on the bench top where he was betting, and the casino came over and asked him to leave because they accused him of recording video. So he wasn't very careful, and it usually takes something quite extreme like that, unless the staff is very attentive. But really, there's so many different variables, so it's hard to really answer the question fully, but it's not very often. Yes, the cameras are hidden. There's a lot of different places to hide the camera. For example, you want it reasonably high, around about chest height, so you can look down the wheel. You can use glasses with the hidden camera inside them, but I wouldn't recommend it because you've got, unless they're wireless, and you don't want something that's wireless attached to your head, and then you have to worry about extra batteries for that. But the typical case is you've got a hidden camera that's connected to the phone. See if I can find an example of it, just a second. All right, here's one of the players, one of the ones we actually used. So this is the cable. It connects to the phone, and this is just a typical camera. Now this little camera has got tape over it, so it's a little bit bigger than it normally is, but that's the actual lens there. It's just a pinhole lens, and that can be, well, you can basically hide it anywhere. The only thing is when you've got it on a body, facing forward like that, if it's strapped to your body or into a shirt, you want it to be angled down slightly, only just very, very slightly. So we use like well, actually what I use is just a little Lego piece with an angle, and you just tape that behind it and it gives you a bit of an angle. So yeah, the cameras, there's lots of different cameras you can use. This is just the default camera. It's not the best with light, as far as light exposure. There's another one that's only slightly bigger with a slightly bigger lens, so it's got better responsivity, or more responsive in low light. So there are a few different cameras you can choose from, but like I said, that's the default one. For the camera I just showed, it's very common that people will just have peeking through a little shirt button, but sometimes you have to drill ever so slightly bigger hole just so the lens can see through clearly. If you're using a better lens, what you can do also is some people have the lens actually covered by fabric. if it's thin fabric, it can't be seen from the outside by the casino staff, but the camera can still see through. The downside of it is the light isn't as, the image isn't as clear. It's not overly necessary for the ball, but it is for the zero. If the green zero is not clearly visible, and then you've got no reference point. And some casinos, what they do is they have lights around the actual, they make it all fancy, flashing lights around the rim, and it can confuse the sensors. That can be tuned out, and it's very rare though to have lights flashing onto the wheel, especially if they're green. Yeah, so you just have to adjust the camera you're using, and how, depending on the conditions you've got. None of my players have been charged criminally. I'm just thinking back over the years how many people have actually been caught. Nobody's been charged. The only people that have been, going back quite a few years now. Yeah, I remember the last one. I was actually on the team for that one where the player got asked to leave. In the US, it's hard to say because a lot of the players, there's only, that I know of, 2 states that are legal in the US, and that could have changed. We haven't looked at all states in the US. They're all gambling law is state by state based. You can look at, there are some players playing on the Indian reservations. Was it? I'm not sure which state they were. Yeah, I can't remember the states. So I'd have to look back quite a while to know exactly where they're playing in the US. So yes, there are players in the US, but the majority of them are in Europe. The downside of the US are obviously, yeah, the legalities. It's highly illegal in Vegas, for example. A lot of people ask that, but you don't play in Vegas. Also, Vegas tends to have much faster rotors. Europe has overall better conditions. The thing with these remote, the hybrid and the Uber, you don't have to physically be in a location. I can have players in any area of the country, of the world, and still sit from home. So the legalities to me don't really matter as long as the players in the casino, it's actually legal there. There are 2 states that are legal that I know of. I can't remember the name of them. I think it started with an M. I'm not sure if it was Michigan or not, but I think there was a state in the top left of the US. But generally speaking, I discourage playing in the US because the legalities are pretty universal. It's just those few states, and also the Indian reservations have their own laws. Now you've also got cruise ships. But again, the location shouldn't overly matter to people that are using the remote computers because it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where the operator is, it only matters where the players are. And what the general procedure is, after you get access to the software, you get access to the player forum. In the player forum, everybody's been individually verified as having the equipment as a player, so they can join your team and be the better for you, the players that are in the casino. There are also operators in the forum that are looking for players. So you basically, the operators, the people with the owning the software, and the players can match up, and they're very interchangeable. So you can change teams, and if you had say 3 or 4 really good teams around the world, you could play almost every day. But that'd be very, very tiring. The main problem that I've had is because I'm in Australia, the hours for the rest of the world where it's legal are ridiculous, like 3 in the morning. So I have to stay up very late to play, and I don't play anymore. I don't really need to. Just reading your other. No, I don't know the person. Right, any other questions for now? You can always ask me questions later on, and it's easy enough for me to respond by email. In the forum, it's hard to say. I'm only guessing there's only roughly 50 or so users in there. The players come and go. There's new players every now and then. And just recently there were 2 extra players. One's in Greece. I can't remember where the other one is. Actually, might have been the UK. Yeah, but mostly the players are in Europe, and the players are very hungry for an operator. They're always looking for an operator, and also the operators are always looking for players. But yeah, once a player tends to have a good stable team and a good operator, they stick with them. But they still interchange, so you can have different teams working with different operators. Actively playing, well, the only way I can tell anyone's actively playing is if I'm actually looking at the servers. I have, at any time, there's roughly 4 or 5 servers that are on 24/7. So yeah, I can just only estimate roughly five teams are active, 5 operators, but those operators might have multiple teams. And it does vary from time to time. What do you mean by virtual machines? Do you mean like an automated machine, like the Interblock automated machines? In that case, yes, absolutely. I can give you a link to a fairly long session on a Kamei slingshot. That's an automated wheel. And every now and then you see the player. This is a player that I recorded while he was playing. I think he went on to win like over $1 million. So he doesn't play the Kameis anymore. I'm not sure where he's playing. But I can send you the video recorded session on his Kamei wheel. He gets roughly a 5% edge, and every now and then he refers back to the chart, and you can see the peak in the chart. And that's with an automated wheel using RRS. That's the random rotor speed that's supposed to be nearly impossible to beat, and he's still beating it. Like I said, he hasn't played for a while, but he used to play almost every day on this wheel. The interblocks, and it also depends on the speed of the rotor. Probably the hardest automated wheels I've found to beat are the Alpha Streets. The Alpha Streets are crazy. Some of the rotor speeds are just over a second per revolution, which is incredibly fast. Now, first of all, you've got timing errors at a 1 second revolution for a rotor. Timing errors are significant. But then when the RRS kicks in and the speed changes, just the slightest change can make a completely different outcome. But we have beaten Alpha Street automated wheels. It depends on the settings. And yes, it's the countermeasures mostly that are in it. The Alpha Street's way of dealing with it is a super, super fast rotor, and the way everything rolls is very unnatural. The way the Kameis and the slingshots work is they'll speed up the ball and then they'll let it decelerate naturally towards the end. But after the bets are closed, then the random rotor speed kicks in, and that varies. But you can see that happen with the recorded video that I'll send you. But he still has an edge. What the random rotor speed will actually do, if we look at the video here, let's say, for example, at the end of the spin, that would normally be the rotation of the rotor when the ball falls. The random rotor speed will vary it, so the actual final position of the rotor might be there, or it might be over there. But it won't go to this side. So it'll be like a plus 90 degrees and negative 90 degrees, but it's still within the same arc, rather than random 360 degrees. If it was perfectly random 360 degrees and it used a random number generator to control the speeds, then it would be nearly impossible to beat, because you don't know where the rotor is going to be. But when the rotor variation is only marginal, and they make it marginal so people don't notice it, because if people notice the rotor speed's changing speed, then they don't trust the wheel, and it puts off normal players that are typically normal losing players, and that they lose trust, and the casino has an overall drop in revenue from the game. So the rotor speed variations are usually slight, and as long as they're within a particular arc, like in this case 180 degrees, you'll still get an edge. It's just a diluted edge. And the random road speed is probably the most common countermeasure. It depends on their model. Pretty much all the automated wheels, the modern ones, do use some form of countermeasure because the automated wheels aren't as monitored by the surveillance. They still have their videos and everything. No, I'm not aware of the name that you gave. There's a lot of teams out there that have done different things. They're not all my teams. There's even visual ballistics players. Yeah, but there are some automated wheels that we've come across that are incredibly easy to beat. But they're usually like at small. I don't know if you're familiar with RSLs in Australia. They're just like little pubs with. Sometimes they have an automated wheel, and the operator might only. He's not a full casino. He's like a pub, and he has some slot machines or maybe an automated wheel that he paid, maybe $20,000 for, and it gives him income from normal people. But he doesn't know how to monitor the wheel properly or set it properly. He has a consultant that comes in and does that. And wheels like that tend to be very vulnerable because they're not properly monitored, they're not properly set, and it's not run by a proper casino, and they're kind of spread all over the place. So yeah, I'm not aware of that particular team. I think you're talking about rouletteadvantageplay.com. Yeah, that uses a very different kind of technology, the same kind of physics involved, but it doesn't use a device. It uses an offline analysis. So what you do is you collect the numbers, you put the data into the software, and what it does is it runs permutations and looks for patterns, any kind of anomalies with respect to, it's kind of related to dealer signature, but that's only part of it. Dealer signature is more the contributing factor, whereas the real factor is the wheel just not being random. And it wouldn't matter who actually spun the wheel, you'll still get the patterns, but the dealer does still affect the variables, such as the rotor speed. If the rotor speed's, say, 3 seconds per revolution, and you collect 100 spins of that, that's a lot for one dealer, but if that was the case, so if you get 100 spins within that rotor range, and then another dealer comes in and spins significantly slower, then you need more data for that particular rotor speed range. So yeah, you get predictions before spins. There are fewer wheels you can beat, and the edge is lower, but it's easier to blend in. I don't offer that system anymore for a few reasons, but number one, it's not really overly worth my time to offer it. It's just that the profit isn't enough for me to spend time, because when a player joins, they usually take a fair bit of time and support asking questions. There's nothing difficult about that, and if it's a brand new player that barely knows the basics of roulette, then I spend a lot of time on them. So I don't offer that anymore. The computers are a lot simpler for me to teach. Everything, the learning curves are a lot quicker, and and plus it's much more profitable for me to offer. But look, generally speaking, if you're getting a hybrid or Uber, I'll give you free access to the other software, and you can use that if you like. It's just the support I can offer with it is minimal, because I don't have the time for that. But you being a computer player would make it a bit different. Although if you've got the computer and you're comparing it to the other system, and it's like going from a Lamborghini to a Toyota. So yeah, there are circumstances where it might be a better option, like if it's very difficult to avoid detection. But generally, the computers are a far better option. Yeah, look, you can play in the US. There are legal places, and I wouldn't want you to, because I'm running these servers from my name, my accounts, and if they're breaking any laws, then it reflects on me. So part of the agreement is the legal. I'm just a service provider, and you're responsible for the legal. It's kind of like a website. If I provide a website service or an internet service provider, I'm not responsible for your use of it unless I find out that you're actually using it illegally. Then I'm obligated legally to kind of put an end to that. I don't look at exactly where you're playing. It's really up. It's like a web host doesn't look at your content, so I have to rely on reports or any kind of knowledge of wrongdoing. But again, with the remote versions, you don't. The majority of people that buy it don't do it to use it for them to be in the casino themselves. They buy it, so they're the operator and they're sitting from home in their undies or whatever. Yeah, the players are actually in the casino. So that's the whole purpose of the remote computer. I developed it for a few reasons to be this way remote. Number one, there's no important equipment that goes into the casino. So nothing can really be confiscated that's important. If the casino wanted to investigate further, they don't have access to the software. They don't know anything you've been doing. They just see the shell of the software, which is basically the streaming software. And even that's encoded and locked. And you can even lock the phone. So unless there's a court order for you to unlock the phone, they're not going to see anything. But someone can even log onto your phone through a remote application such as AnyDesk while you're not even looking at your phone and delete the app. If they're aware that you've been captured or been interrogated, taken to the back room or whatever, they can remotely delete the software from the phone. There's no trace of it. I'm just reading the... So if you're buying, what you're basically doing is you're buying the rights to the software, a perpetual license to use as often as you want. You book time with the server through an online form. If you wanted it on basically if you wanted it on for a week or whatever, I'll just leave it on for a week. It's okay. If you wanted it on 24/7, it's just because the servers are quite power hungry. I just ask that you just cover the, I think it's $60 a month for 24-hour access. Otherwise, you just get access whenever you want. Yeah, I'm fairly liberal with that. Unless you're asking it for it to be on for like a year, and or month after month without me even looking at it, then that's when I ask for the monthly fee just to cover the electricity. But ordinarily, it's not normally required anyway. So what you receive is access to the software whenever you want. You receive the hardware that's compatible with it. You don't have to use the hardware that's sent with it. You get the earpieces, the induction loop, and the phones. And the clicking cable, and that's really all you need. You can use other phones with it that are faster. Not that it's really even needed, but yeah, that as the software and the firmware of phones get developed, and some of the software might be become obsolete and has to be updated to work with the current firmware of the phones. If that's the case, then it simply comes out of my pocket and I pay for a programmer to fix the problem. We haven't had that problem. The other thing with using different phones, almost every modern Android phone will run the software for the phone, but what a compatibility problem might be is you might not be able to run an external camera by USB. So you'd have to, in a case where the external, the pinhole camera is not compatible with the phone, you would have to use the actual phone's camera itself, in which case you would put the phone in your front pocket, or you can hide it under your clothes. Some people strap it to their body, and it just peeks you out through a button. There's a lot of different ways to hide a phone. It's not the ideal situation. The ideal situation is just, technically, from a technical point, using the phone's native camera, the camera that's built into it, is the best option, because then you don't have compatibility issues at all. But if you're using the phones that you know are compatible, then it's just no problems at all. So to answer that question, you get both hardware and perpetual access to the software. Look at your other question. To answer that question, it depends on the wheel and the conditions that you've got. The vast majority of times, it's far better to just search around and scout and find the ideal conditions in the wheels where the hybrids and the Ubers can be used. And then you'll get you save time, time's money, you earn a lot quicker, it's easier. But the main thing is time, and you're going to do a lot better with the hybrid. But I'll give you access to that software as well, and you can see that the advantages and the limitations, and you can adapt or use whichever you prefer depending on the circumstances. Where the system doesn't do well is if you have a huge variation of rotor speeds. So if you've got a rotor speed that's, say for example, like the Alpha Street wheels literally spin that fast. They're insanely quick. If you get a wheel like that and you collect a few hundred spins and you go from that and then to that, they're very different speed ranges, and so you need to have enough spins within around about the same speed range for it to be reliable. And if you don't have enough spins for that speed range, then you just have to collect more data for analysis. But yeah, it doesn't require tuning as far as ball fall time. It takes all that into account automatically anyway. So it is overall easier to use from a user's viewpoint, but it still takes a lot more time and the edge isn't as high. I'll put it this way, if I was out there playing now, there's no way I'd go back to the system because it just takes too long compared to the computers. If you find an automated wheel where it's weak and the conditions are easy, absolutely, they're a godsend. Like I said, they're not as surveilled as much, especially if you're dealing with a small establishment that might only have like 1 or 2 wheels and the staff is kind of inexperienced. But then again, at a larger casino, it can be also easier to blend in because there's so many wheels and the staff can be inattentive. So it really depends on the staff that are monitoring it. But generally speaking, if you've got a small establishment, smaller casino, and they don't monitor the automated wheels and the consultants aren't doing their job, they just assume the wheel's not beatable. So it's easy picking. So yes. The only thing is if the wheel and the terminal and the computers inside have some kind of monitoring software. I haven't seen it. It would be easy enough for them to do, and they can determine. And I know they do it with online casinos, or some of the online casinos, where they determine when you're betting during the spin, when wins are, so there's a statistical analysis, and they can more easily detect you. That is more of a possibility, though, for the majority of wheels, and I haven't seen it very often. We only suspected it. Just finishing the rest of the question. Yes, so yes, definitely. If the conditions are good and they're safer and you're scouted properly, take advantage of whatever you can. It's really an opportunistic thing. And like I said, a lot of people, what they do is, which is a mistake, they'll go to the first wheel they find and they'll almost always beat it. But it's far easier when you might have a wheel a few meters over that's 10 times more beatable with a higher edge and better conditions. No, there's once you pay the fee, there's a lot that covers the lifetime cost for it. The only time that there's any continued fee is if you want the servers on 24/7. There's only a few players that do that, and most of the time they don't even use it, but they just want it sitting there for availability, and it constantly draws power. They're very power hungry servers. Just one of them takes 500 watts. Anyway, so yeah, so there's no additional fees besides that 24/7 thing. The cost for each one exactly, the actual computer itself, as in the lifetime subscription, or what? Okay, so these are the prices. These are the originals down here. These top two ones are the remote, the hybrid, and the remote Uber for the prices. I am a bit flexible on the price for the hybrid, not the Uber. It's already too cheap, to be honest. The hybrid, I can do 50,000 US upfront and the rest with winnings. It's just, yeah, it's an easier arrangement. Another common question about the access to the servers. As part of my last will and testament in the instructions to relatives, if I ever died or something, or become incapacitated, you get access to the software to run your own servers with the instructions to run the servers. It's not difficult to run the servers. You can run them on any Windows PC. I use Windows 8.1 because it's stable and suitable. But you can use Windows 10, 11 to run the server, and it's just a few firewall settings and just running the just to allow the traffic to reach the software through the firewall, and it's all in the instructions. Well, you get both. You get access to the software, which is run on my servers, and you get the equipment that connects to the servers. You don't need to you don't need the equipment from me, but you need the. It's better to have the equipment from me because you know it's compatible. But all the servers are in my control. So yeah, and again, you get access to the software, the full software, if something happened to me. It's a combination of subscription and the actual hardware. Oh, on that point, yeah, you'll have to see the contracts. They're on the website. Probably the most relevant part of it pertaining to what you're speaking of is the subscription term, because my lawyers said I have to offer a set subscription term for legal reasons, and the term is legally 12 months, but unofficially it's forever. Now, if I can't provide forever. I'm very aware of the fact that you're going to need continual access, which is why the instructions are being left with family and friends. So if something happened to me, it just may take, say for example, if I died tomorrow and you just purchased, it may take a good couple of months before my family can go through my instructions and know who to send it to and look at the database and see who needs to be sent what. Just give me 5 minutes, I'll be back in a second. All right, I'm back. Yeah, any other questions? I'm just trying to understand your question here. I assume you mean that you don't know exactly the things you would get. What you get is the 3 phones, the cables, the cameras, the induction loops, and the earpieces. That's all the players need. The rest of it is access to the actual server. So what you're actually paying for is the use, well, some of it's hardware, but the majority is the use of the actual software. So it's a software license. As far as the players going into casino, the way we usually get players is they apply through the website and they ask for instructions on how to proceed. First of all, I send them set templates. Step 1 is to evaluate, or first 2 steps are to evaluate the casino. So the player goes into the casino and they collect data and they help you evaluate how beatable the wheel is. And they also do their own legal research. They send that to me. And after I've looked at everything, and then they get instructions on what equipment to purchase. So your players on the other side of the world will purchase their own equipment, and that happens without your intervention. And once I've confirmed that they've got the equipment and everything is needed, then I add them to the player-only forum. At that point, they can contact other operators such as yourself and organise to train, or I can do a little bit of training too, but generally speaking, the operator does the training. So the players have their own equipment. You don't have to send yours. In all probability, if you use the hybrid and the Uber like I have, you don't leave home. You don't have to buy or send the equipment anywhere. The equipment that I send you is probably going to sit on the shelf. The equipment that's actually used, the hardware, the phones and stuff, is stuff that the players have bought themselves. Okay, yeah, dealing with, you're dealing with, talk about issues here with that I'm very familiar with. You can see everything the players do. You can see what they're winning. You can see the accuracy rates. You can see, if they turn around and say to you, and they wouldn't do this, but if they turn around and said to you, well, I'm not going to pay you my winnings, or they pay you less than you think that you've agreed on, then you simply don't work with them. As simple as that. They wouldn't do that. And what you would then do is you simply tell me what happened, you look at the details, and I can kick them out as a player. No one else is going to want to touch them. So for a player to not treat you fairly, it's basically shooting themselves in the foot. The only time that they might try that is if they won like $1 million or whatever, and they want to take 100% of the winnings. It's unlikely to happen though, because to win $1 million and avoid detection, you're going to be under the kind of microscope. So usually the winnings, they can be anything from a few $100s to $20,000, $30,000. Depends on the table limits. If you're referring to when the players pay you, a lot of players use cryptocurrencies. Most common would be Monero. It's encrypted and it's one of the more accepted cryptos. Yeah, you can accept Bitcoin. I deal with Bitcoin fairly often, but once you put it through an exchange, then it has to it pops up on the radar. And but if you want to keep it as Bitcoin and just use that, then it's it's generally speaking, winnings from casinos aren't taxed. It depends on the jurisdiction, so you don't really have to declare it. Look, I haven't found it difficult to organise players. Well, everyone wants to work with me though, but generally speaking, the players, when they join the forum, they're very hungry to look for an operator. And also the operators are looking for good players. So once you've got your teams, you might have, well, in the long term, you might even have 2 or 3 teams throughout the world, and you might play only maybe 1 or 2 times per week. It's up to you. I find that anything more than 1 or 2 times a week is quite tiring, especially if you're up late hours. Yeah, but once you've got your team, you've trained them well, there's no shortage of motivated people. And the good thing about the player forum is everyone in there has already made the investment. They've already bought the equipment and they're serious about it. They wouldn't spend a good $1,000 or so just on phones and stuff if they weren't serious to play. Actually, when I first started with the original Uber, I would screen players and just to make sure that they're reasonably serious or whatever, and then I would send them the actual phone with the hardware and everything they need. Problem with that is they've made no initial investment and they very quickly lose interest. They're busy with work or whatever, and they don't play as often as they should. Whereas someone that makes the investments, yes, you do need an earpiece as well. It's by far the best way to get to predictions. There are other methods of delivery, and the earpieces are very common. The only thing you would need to be careful with an earpiece is if someone's got an earpiece and standing right next to you, like shoulder to shoulder, they'll be able to detect some sound coming from the induction loop. It's never been a problem before because if someone's close enough to you, you generally know they're in your personal space. There are some of the newer Bluetooth earpieces that don't even need an induction loop. I haven't. I've tested the larger ones, but I haven't tested the smaller ones yet. And if you're using one of the Bluetooth ones, then That's if it's entirely Bluetooth inside the actual earpiece, and there's no induction loop, then nobody can intercept that. But the default ones, I give you just a standard induction loop. Yeah, sure, ask questions, whatever you mean. No doubt you'll have extra questions later on, but just send those by email, and I'll just give you written responses anyway. No, they don't rely on a dominant diamond, but dominant diamond is part of the physics involved. Just to give you an example, I mean, you can predict some things. Yeah, the dominant diamonds, I'll explain some of the physics involved. So the ball comes around, obviously a standard situation, it hits diamond, bounces a typical distance, and it's quite measurable and consistent. But what happens in reality is, obviously, you can hit any diamond, it can loop around, it can go around the rim of the wheel. There's all these different variables. There's so many different spins that what ways the balls can fall. But there's still consistency. So you might have, let's say, for example, 20 spins where the ball hits, 20 spins and say 10 times it will hit here, 5 times, and so 20 in total. But the thing is, most of it's 10 times here. So you've got an imbalance in the wheel, and you'll never find a wheel that's almost never where the ball falls equally around the wheel and behaves the same everywhere. So that discrepancy is not random, and because it's not random, you don't. That's how you get the edge. You don't have to target diamonds. You can. I'll give you an example of that. There are 2 ways of targeting diamonds. The first way, this is the most hands-free way, but you need more data for this chart to be reliable. Here we've got the speed of the road when the ball falls. This axis here represents where around the rim the ball is actually falling. It's closely related to that. And this is the jump value, how far the ball bounces from the raw prediction. The raw prediction is here, and halfway around the wheel is 18 pockets around here. So what we've got is clouds of information. It can tell if we want to look at this section. So we've got a cloud. I mean, we really need more data to look at this reliably, but I'm kind of working with limited data here. And the computer, what it will do is we'll look at the clouds and give you a prediction based on the rotor speed when the ball falls, where the ball is likely to fall, and it'll give you a jump value to be in the green cloud. So that's one way to do it with 3D charts. It's the easiest. If you want to target diamonds for this, you can isolate certain areas. This, for example, that might be one diamond there. So I'm isolating when the ball is predicted to fall in this particular area, which might be around about, hang on, I'll show you the video. The ball might be predicted to fall maybe in this arc here, and that would be represented by this green arc here. And as we adjust it, we can make the peak a little clearer. Although the edge has gone up, it's gone up massively. It means we're going to only accept this amount of spins. It's roughly roughly a third of the spins, and the other spins get rejected. So I'll give you an example of how that works. So I've got view only and apply. So if I wanted to target a diamond hit, and it's not necessarily the diamond that you're targeting. What you're targeting is whatever behavior that's consistent enough to form this peak. So it doesn't have to be a diamond. It could be a combination of two different diamonds. So say for example, if there's two dominant diamonds, there's a dominant diamond here and a dominant diamond there. The ball has two options then, two main options, common options. The ball might hit here, fall and bounce, or it might do an extra 180 degrees and fall and bounce here. So in that case, you get two different peaks. But what happens is you get multiple peaks from the various diamonds and the various behavior and the way the pocket separators are, all these factors combined. And what you're looking at is the overall effect, which is wherever the peaks land up. But if you wanted to get the most edge possible, then this is what you would do. The downside, and it's very rarely done though, it's only done if you really need to squeeze the last bit of edge out and to get the highest edge possible. And again, the downside is it just takes longer to apply because you need more data. And 2/3 of the time, the computer will announce risk, which means that it's not predicted to fall in this region. I'll give you a few samples. So sometimes risk will be called, and sometimes we'll get a prediction. But to properly evaluate this, you still need more data. So that time it gave a prediction. Let's see if I've got it on. Oh, it's on view only. No, that's all right. So that didn't really help because it looped around, but it's still within the right where the ball predicted to fall. So 22.
Enter tense. 22.
So it's
Confirmed.
out here. All right, so I'll go again. I just want to show you when it announces risk. It'll say risk here. Most of the time.
Risk 12.
So risk.
34. 12.
The predictions are still 12 and 34, but it tells me risk. Now in that case, the actual players won't get a prediction at the table, but the operator still sees it. Okay, so we wouldn't have bet in that position in that case anyway, but yeah, it's 14.
Enter tense 14. Confirmed. Update.
So it was outside the region anyway. So that was an example of risk being accurate.
Risk 4.
So risk again.
22.
So this is there's no betting on this one.
Enter tense 3. Confirmed.
Okay, so
Update.
what was it? So I was going to look at the raw prediction, which was 22, and go to charts. So 22 and 3, where are we? It actually was in the same region. So it was around about, I don't want to point on the screen, it was around about here. Anyway, so the long-term effect of this is you basically exclude types of ball behavior that lead to more erratic peaks. See, when we cut out this area over here, make this area white, it seems to get rid of most of the peak on this side, most of it. There's a kind of a sweet medium spot. I mean, that's actually not bad there. I probably should have used that setting. Yeah, but again, you do need more data for it to be a good improvement. So, because you need to know where the ball falls on the rim is affecting the actual peaks. So hopefully that answers that. I'm just waiting for your next question. Okay, well, in that case, it's just a matter of you maybe having a think about things and any questions you have, any concerns. Yeah, and if you wanted to see something in particular. Um, there's a few reasons. No, I don't. The reason I don't is because once a person has access to the software, they can basically look at the algorithms and how everything is designed, and they can have it basically reverse engineering it. And I know some people have certainly tried to do that. Yeah, basically that opens it to being the software, but making it vulnerable. So I won't do that. I know casino consultants have tried to get it for free by by threatening me, but that didn't do that too well for them. Yeah, basically, I understand it's not a small purchase, so there's nothing to hide. It's just a matter of you telling me what you want to see. Um, yeah, probably the most important thing that you probably should see is how the camera and how the whole system works with an actual camera in a casino. I think I might have sent you a link of some actual casino footage and how the camera works and how the wheel is tracked in real time. Yeah, so that would be yeah, probably the next major point I would say. Based on everything I know about this, it's just that's what probably the most important thing is, how the camera is used. Because here we're dealing with a static camera. I mean, yeah, it's different when you're in the casino moving, and it uses different technology to adjust as the wheel moves from different angles. Specifically, these are the settings for tracking. Tracks where the wheel is, the orientation of the camera. Say, for example, the camera has changed to like a 45-degree angle. The camera has shifted, and the player is unaware of it. I can send you a link that has the video. I'm not sure. I can't remember it from. Let me just make a note of it to send an email to you. So I'll send you an email with the link. Just so I think it's just a few spins just to show you how the camera actually works. The automatic wheel tracking. I'll also send you the link for the Kamei wheel. That's the automated slingshot. I think the video goes for, I think it's a couple of hours or something like that. You can watch it fully through if you like, but you can see it's a real video. But just skip through to where you pass, and you can see the charts build. The charts being obviously this part, and I think it's got one broad peak in one area. Yeah, he easily beats the wheel, and it's roughly a 5% edge, and that's an automated wheel. So I'll send you that as well, just as long as you keep it private, because obviously he doesn't play. I don't think he plays this wheel anymore. He's more into the real casinos now. But generally speaking, the players are quite sensitive about other players knowing where they're playing online, and people tend to treat their casinos as like their personal turf. There was one case where two teams were trying to play in the same casino at the same time, and yeah, that's obviously a problem. So you need to have some kind of communication. And it ended up being that when even on a separate occasion, I put two groups of people together, and I thought that would be a good match, and they all seemed to be for it, and ended up that they had a conflict of interest, and one team was threatening the other team to stay out of their turf. And that kind of stuff happens. But if it does happen, then yeah, I can still take action against the players, and everyone generally behaves. It's only a few bad actors that have been like that. Yeah, so there's two things I'll send a video. I'm just looking at your next question. Well, when you're talking about variables, the variables are, I mean, you've got the rotor deceleration rate, the ball deceleration curve, because you can't actually go on a curve alone. This particular wheel has maybe I'll show you. Well, yeah, so the deceleration curve can really vary between wheels. It's not about the rate. A typical wheel would have a curve and a kind of a, well, there's usually a sharp bend somewhere in the middle. For this wheel there is anyway, it makes it more difficult to beat. So you've got the ball deceleration curve, the rotor deceleration rate. There are other internal values that some people call the coefficient of restitution, which is basically how far the ball bounces based on the rotor speed. See, a faster rotor speed, obviously the ball's going to behave or bounce differently. Other variables, those are the main variables. But as far as the algorithm, there's different algorithms you can choose from. You've got the default one. I mostly use auto polynomial. It uses polynomials of various orders. These ones here, 5 is pretty standard, and that just basically backtracks and rebuilds the curve. This part here and this end part is just the kind of like the end part that is really, well, it's not irrelevant, but this part here is the most relevant part. This part here, the extended part, represents that 2 seconds. That's adjusting when the ball deceleration rate changes. The ball deceleration rate changes are automatically accounted for in this area here. And with this particular algorithm, this area very, very rarely changes. In the whole demo, I think it varied 200 milliseconds, which is barely nothing. I could have not adjusted it at all, and the results would have been much the same. So different algorithms do different things for different situations, but 9 out of 10 times, auto polynomial is what I use anyway. Yeah, so it's not just the velocity of things, that's just the starting point. Also, I mean, there's a lot of, it depends on what we're talking about with algorithms. There's a lot of little analysis algorithms. For example, if the timings are too different from the sample, or if there's some kind of data mismatch, the computer automatically rejects it. I'll give you an example. Now I'm just gonna I'm gonna try and fool the use my hand to pretend that it's the ball, and it will say something like false detections. So I can just stuff around here and
false detections.
Yeah. So it recognises there's false detections and it doesn't give a prediction. There's lots of little algorithms like that maintain the edge. Yep, no problems. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going anywhere, so yeah, no worries. And I'll stop the stream now, and yeah, I can show you other stuff if you like, and I'll send you that information. Well, probably within an hour. Just it depends on how easily I find it all. But it should be. Just check your email soon. Of course, yeah. It's just you hear my voice. I've got no problem speaking. It's just yeah, it just depends on what software we're going to use, and we'll sort that out. So I'll actually make that a point here to sort that out, so we can do that. All right, so I'll stop the stream now, and yeah, just email me any questions. And any last questions you have at all, just for now, or I'm right to stop it. Well, the players really wouldn't be comfortable with that. A lot of people have asked that just to have a quick looking around, but all you're going to find is just a bunch of members. It's not a very active forum. It's really only used for people meeting up and forming teams. Once people have identified there's a potential relationship, they move to private messages. They don't have a discussion in the open forum for everyone. So it's really just a meet and greet forum. And there are a few support questions, but generally speaking, the support questions go directly to me and in private. So the forum doesn't really show much. It's just a bunch of people looking for other players. Okay, no problem. Thanks for your time, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.